Hi, my name's Michael. I work here at McCambridge Duffy as a senior insolvency consultant. We thought it'd be useful to do some FAQs that we get from clients. So these would tend to be the top 5 that we would get asked on a regular basis by clients. The first is pretty much not really a surprise, is can I get a write down on my mortgage? The answer to that is that basically, if your circumstances dictate that that is one of the options that can return you to solvency, then yes, it is possible to get a write down in your mortgage. Now, there are conditions as to whether that's the correct course of action for your individual circumstances based on the property, for whether it's in the best interest of the bank. So there are certain, not everybody. It's not appropriate for every client, and certainly it's not the correct solution in certain circumstances. So it is one of the restructuring options, but it isn't the only one. So the banks and creditors and things like that will look at other options as well. So it might be interest rate reductions, term extensions, temporary interest only periods, and it can be a combination of all those. So a straight write down isn't always the most appropriate option. Some of the other solutions can be there, but basically what we'll be looking to do is to put it as an affordable payment over the long term. It has to be sustainable for the duration of the mortgage, and that's really one of the tools that's in the toolbox, essentially. The second question is, can I get a short arrangement? So generally, or typically, a PIA 6 years. Can I do it within 12 months? Again, it does depend on the appropriateness of that solution. So it is possible to do that. To think of it in one way is if you have available funds to pay, for argument's sake, 12,000 or 15,000 euro over the period of the 6 years, and your family were willing to introduce an amount of 10,000 euro immediately, it can mean that you can be in it for just a few months or maybe 12 months. So it can be possible to do an accelerated arrangement. Again, it depends on the circumstances that you have. Not everybody has access to friends and family that can do that, or an asset that they can sell, and likewise, it's not the appropriate solution for some circumstances. So engage with your PIP, and they can advise you on that. Third question, very, very straightforward. Do we charge upfront fees? There's an absolute no. We do not charge any upfront fees whatsoever, and a lot of PIPs around the country don't, and it has nothing to do with the advice. We just we don't do that, and certainly under the Awalia scheme, it's a condition that PIPs don't charge upfront fees. So what will happen if my circumstances, the fourth question is what will happen if my circumstances change throughout the duration of the arrangement? So during the 6-year PIA, if you have, if you lose your job, if you suffer a reduction in income, if you have another child, if you move property, if, whatever the circumstances are, your PIP will be there along your side to actually, to vary that arrangement dependent on what the circumstances require at the time. So again, like I said, if you have additional children, obviously there's additional costs to the family, so it may impact your affordability in terms of your mortgage and potentially other debts that you may have. So during that period, it is supervised. Whatever circumstances you have, make sure you notify your PIP, and they will work with you on that. The final one is it's quite a difficult one to answer, but is insolvency and bankruptcy the same thing? So no, it's not. There are consequences and pros and cons for both, basically. So really, again, it depends on your circumstances, which whether a PIA or a DSA is more appropriate than bankruptcy, or vice versa. So again, it will depend on what your circumstances dictate, and your PIP will advise which of those options is correct for you. But ultimately, the decision is up to yourself. So if you want to opt for bankruptcy instead, that's no problem, as long as you're aware of the implications of bankruptcy. So some people ask, what's the benefit of insolvency over bankruptcy? Insolvency is a voluntary, they're voluntary arrangements. So you make an offer to your creditors then say, yeah, okay, we're okay with that, and it's put in place, and provided you fulfill your conditions, then that's all you have to do. With bankruptcy, it's not like that. You don't have control over what actually will happen, so you're not the one dictating kind of what the offer is to your creditors. That control is taken from you, so it'll be down to the official assignee in bankruptcy as to what payments that you have to make, what assets potentially have to be sold, what happens with your family home if you have one. So there are pros and cons to both, but again, it is really up to your PIP to to advise which is the correct course of action for you, depending on your circumstances. Unfortunately, everybody's circumstances are different, so there isn't one solution for all. It is very much on an individual basis. Hope you find that helpful.